Well, good evening and welcome to How to Rock the Virtual Stage. I'm your host, The Trigger, Rich Bontrager. Welcome back to our show to help you, to equip you to better rock the virtual stage. As we all know, the virtual stage is ever expanding into every industry, to every quadrant of our life, whether it's your personal home, your business, the industry, education. The virtual stage is now just sprawling out and becoming more and more important, especially in the last couple of days as we record this. We realize we're going to have another rollback, another pause for a while. And the anticipation of having to do this better and better is more important every day. I'm leveraging my 30 years as a broadcaster, as a public speaker. I've been on stage literally thousands of times. And I'm moving from what I did on stage and what I've done through the media and bringing those two things together to help coach you and equip you. And I do that by bringing great guests on from different industries. And they're going to share their expertise to help you in different ways to elevate your game, to get you rocking in new ways. Coming up next week, Carol Kammerer will be with me. And Carol is an author, a speaker, but her secret sauce is helping you with your LinkedIn profiles. She is able to take what you have as content, massage it, and enhance it to really enrich your presence. And LinkedIn as a business, as a professional, is one of the biggest tools I've been using the last several years to elevate my game and my presence. Carol's going to come on and talk about the virtual stage and how you leverage LinkedIn or other social media platforms to better get engagement and to be seen. You don't want to miss that. Coming up tonight, though, we have a good friend now from Canada. We're going across the border tonight. Mike Skrypnek is with me, and Mike is an international best-selling author. He's an entrepreneur business coach. His best-selling book, Entrepreneur Secrets to Grow, Get, Give Life. We're going to talk about a lot tonight. It's available on Amazon. You can Google that and check it out later on. Mike is an expert in advertising entrepreneurs in their personal and professional journey to realize their best life. He helps people promote, create, brand, and then market and sell. He helps them elevate their game. He's conducted thousands of keynotes, presentations, workshops. He's a C-suite executive, a professional advisor, and at charitable organizations in Canada and the U.S. He works with a lot of great people that need a lot of his help. One more thing about Mike as we get rolling here. Mike now shares his wisdom as he's gained from his years investing in analyzing companies, planning for families, and building a successful business. He knows finance. He knows personal finance, business finance. He brings it all together, and now he is shifting it to the virtual stage to help people do this better because, as we know, this is the way we make money on the virtual stage. Good evening, Mike. Welcome back, my friend.
Hey, Trigger, thanks very much for having me. I'm glad to be here. Glad to see you again.
So, Mike, you have gone from money, promotions, marketing, all these different things that go together. You're an author. So, what is the biggest thing for you has changed over the last 8-9 months from the world that was the world that is? What's been the biggest thing that you've had to rebrand, recreate for yourself?
Look at the little box we're all in. I spent 22 years in the financial services industry before a number of years ago when I shifted into coaching. And I spent that entire time offline. I mean, the reality is compliance is just too stringent, and the old rules and the old guard in the financial services industry meant that technology really wasn't your friend, although you invested heavily in it and you used it for investing and analyzing companies, but we didn't use it to promote, market, and communicate. And so outside of us in live in-person events up until the end of 2019, the only use was to kind of let people know that there's an event coming up. Now it's so reliant. We're so reliant on it. We're reliant for events. We're reliant for coaching. We're reliant for working with new people, meeting new people. It's just everything is in this box. And how we perform and how we behave in the box and create community is what is really new for this year.
Did you think the business world, the finance world, the sales world that you work in, did you think the pivot over here would really take place, or do you think this would be like, oh, we're bust? This is not going to, people are not going to make money going for ask and going for branding, going for things and saying, click the button?
That all remains to be seen. The adaptation has been coming in different waves, right? First, it was a reluctance, and people didn't know what to do. Then they thought they knew what to do. Now I think people are actually settling into a bit of a groove and starting to find their lanes, if you will. I don't know if it's guardrails that are being put up or people are just finding their lanes. So it's a much bigger thing and an adaptation that we are all making. And I don't know if it's so much a pivot as in just realizing that there's so much opportunity, so much leverage, and so much ability to work with people that are like-minded, but you never, ever probably would have seen them in a live event because you may not have gotten to them.
Well, and that is one of the game changers we talk about almost every week is people that you could not get access to, we now have access to. I mean, you had 22 years of big business, big stuff. But now we're literally hanging out in living rooms, in backyards, poolside. Um, Rock artists are letting you come in and see their homes. It's changed from professional to personal to make professional work again, right?
Oh, it sure is. But understanding where those barriers are and the boundaries are in those relationships is just as important. Now, I think I was trained or indoctrinated to really understand the financial service industry. Like I was like, there's personal, there's business, and then I made a shift to incorporate some of my personal passions, but it still wasn't even close to how personal our lives are. But you looked at LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a business. It's like going to the office or going to a business forum, you know. Facebook is a little more like come into the living room and hang out. But even there, you have to understand and respect boundaries and what you're there for. And I think that's a real important part of it. Understanding how to use that, understanding how to engage. And for some people, like I really think my family and my family life is my sanctum. So you're not going to get a lot about my family life. Every once in a while, you're going to get something, but I'm not going to let you in that close because it's nothing personal. It's just that's where I get my refuge. So I'm learning where those boundaries are and what you can let in. And I know people want to get to know you a lot more, and it's natural, but you got to find where those boundaries are for yourself.
So go back in time a little bit because again, you're probably used to the sales, the marketing, you do a workshop live, real people. Go to the back of the table and meet me back there for my book or for my next webinar, my next seminar. What was the big aha moment when you realized I have to start creating online content? I have to do this in a way that digital transfers the same knowledge I have in a different way.
Yesterday? Is it okay if I say today? Every step along the way. And I think, you know, even for me, I'm just trying to figure out where right now I feel like there's a groove that I've hit, there's been a community around me. And so from my personal experience, I'm not speaking for anyone else, it feels like that I've hit stride and started to find where that connection can be made. And you know, it's no different. Like I was talking on our event earlier today, and on another thing earlier, and a breakfast, is that most people have no problem once they're face to face with others, right? They're able to share what they do. There's a communication, a connection, whether it's online, on the phone, or in person. But the big challenge is how do you bring people to the table? Now, I used to have a tried and true, predictable, repeatable process to bring the right people into a physical space. That is the challenge today because everybody's flooded the market with all this different information and all the noise, and the noise has become overwhelming. And you know, Seth Godin said it today on an event. One of the things that he said is if you're getting it free and you're on social media, chances are you're the product. You're you're not actually being, you know, you're not controlling your own fate here. And I think that that's a real valid point. So how do we utilize what's offered to us and message into a permission-based setting and engage people in smaller communities so they get to know you, really?
So that's a great segue. We're going to go to that whole permission based and things just a second here. We're going to have a poll here to let you guys get involved with this. Again, the second half of the show, you're going to ask Mike and me questions that you want to hear. Take notes and be ready. In the second half, we're going to have cameras on if you want, mics on. The Q&A box is already open. I've already got Q&A dropping in, Mike. So they're already locked and loaded for us. But we're going to launch this question here. What industry are you in? I want you, the viewers, you, the audience tonight. Is it education? Is it media? Is it science? Is it business, public speaking, or some other? These are just a couple options, but everyone is moving online. I'm just curious who we have in the house tonight. Cast your vote. Let us know what industry you're in, and then we're going to go back as you make the vote. Mike, what is that pivot of the presence of the way that you're now, because again, you used to target people to bring in intentionally who you wanted. You could scope them out, scout them out. Now it is a little bit different. How do you find them? How do you funnel in and say, I have the right tribe in the room for my webinar, for my course, whatever it is? How do you do that?
Consistency, patience, that's part of it. I've been hosting a breakfast every week, and it's been free, and it's kind of open, no agenda, and you start to get an opportunity to build a rapport with people. Creating an opportunity, I think one of the biggest bonuses is that you can pretty much meet with anybody these days. Most people will take a meeting, and vice versa. I'll take pretty much any meeting. Now, I may spend 15 or 20 minutes or 30 minutes getting to know you. Maybe in the first 5, we know whether we should be talking for another 30. But it is amazing at where you can get someone's attention and how you might be able to get their ear. So I really found a lot of value in those one-on-ones. And really the big shift, and I think that allows us the ability, because it's in condensed space and condensed time, is you can give like crazy, like give as much. I give so much free counsel. It's not valuable if it's free typically, but I can't help myself about sharing and intervening in people's dilemmas where they're going, well, I really wish I could figure this out. I'm going to be there, and I'm going to start offering help, right? And that give, I think when you just do it selflessly, and it ultimately will come back. And then the key is sticking with it. So being there when no one else is there, being there next week, being the week after, all this internet fuss, all the noise will calm down in some respects. And there'll be a few people left that are remaining, that have been persisting, continuing, and showing up when no one else is showing up, and just being there to serve.
Well, one thing that I talked about early on in Shutdown was this whole year is a pilot year. You're just going to invest and give away more.
There's a pilot
and for those that stay in the game, for those that really stay in long term, they will turn the corner into finances. But this first year is the give, the investment, the people. And you talk about the world shrinking here. This is what we have people from Germany with us tonight, Mike. This is the amazing thing of the Zoom box. We have people who are talking in the chat boxes right now. They lost their jobs because of COVID, and now they're trying to figure out how do they survive through the virtual lens. It's not like it touched one industry or one life. It literally forced all of us into a space where, except for broadcast media people, there's no roadmap for this. This is all new territory, just like you, right?
Oh, like I really feel like, first of all, I had clients who shut down their businesses. I've had clients have to figure out their challenge. And so for the first 90 days of, after the lockdown started back in March, I was there giving and serving so that these people could figure out how to run their businesses. But in the meantime, think about it. My whole plan for 2020 was be on the road, be on stage, and hold workshops. Well, none of that happened. And so that was my entire tried and true, proven methodology of attracting people and working with people. So that was out of the water. So you can count on 2/3 of my expected income for the year gone.
Yeah.
And so what had to happen in 2020 is you had to figure out. I think we all raced. I think we were racing a little hard. Some of us who were, project drivers, we raced a little hard early on to think, well, we got to figure out this space really quickly. There's no time. We got to do this because this is it forever. And then looking out at the future, you begin to go, well, there's a balance somewhere in there. There are things that you do well. And I've even had to look at where am I valuable in that relationship with people? And now it's about sticking with it. And so for the last few months, that's precisely what I've been doing. And I know that is valuable for anyone. And it's tough. Like you don't have to reinvent yourself to live in this world. There are other things that you can do, but it is a matter of being there on the other side of it. So whatever you can do in your life and your business, and if it isn't your business, let go of the rope, stop pushing so hard, and allow it to grow and happen for you. As long as you're there at the other end and you've battened down the hatches to do that. But it's getting through this, Rich. It's this is not an easy time, friend.
No, it isn't. And again, sometimes the more you push, the more you try, the harder it gets. And also, Today we were both on a different call, and one of the things Seth Godin said, "You are the brand." Sometimes we reach so hard to create it versus doing what naturally is us. And stop trying so hard to stop trying so hard is one thing I've learned. Here's our poll. Yeah, think about that. Stop trying so hard to try so hard.
Yeah.
This is a poll here, and this is our results, Mike. Here's what we have in the house tonight. So we've got science, business overwhelms everybody, and we've got others.
Awesome. So
So
we have some jugglers and some musicians.
right, and even musicians have had to go online and do this. So talk about this idea of grow, get, give. You said you were going to go on the road. You said you had this whole plan to take your go, get, give. Say that 3 times fast. Grow, get, give. You were going
Yeah.
to take that on the road, and now you had to bring it online. So talk us through what exactly this is and how it changes people and how they do business.
Well, for me, it's a philosophy. So, back 12 years ago, I was in the middle of my financial services career. I was sitting in traffic. It was September and it was snowing in Calgary, Alberta, which is where I was living at the time. And I was thinking of how much I hated what I was doing. Nothing that I was doing during my work days was passionate and it didn't connect with what I was doing on my weekends and evenings. So it had to change. And over the course of the coming year, it started to change. And you can imagine, I'm sitting in traffic listening to my own radio spot that I'd recorded an hour earlier, me telling the world that Lehman Brothers just went under, right? So that's where I started. And I decided, well, I need a big goal. And big goals or any goal provides you at least the clarity to move in a direction, forward, sideways, whatever your direction is, up. And the big goal for me was give $1 million to charity. That was, how do I do that in the financial services industry, an industry that likes hoarding instead of giving, in an industry that the people I wanted to serve were high net worth donors and charities. And the last thing they wanted to do was trust a financial service person. How do I change that dialogue? How do I build a business around making that happen? And then over time, I managed to get to the other side of it. And the other side of it was I wasn't working 7 days a week, 70, 80 hours a week. I was working 9 months a year and taking 3 months off. I had a business that was 10 times bigger. And we managed to give over $12.5 million to charity. We redirected that from people who really wanted to make an impact. And we managed to make a big, big impact. So looking back, what did it take? Well, it took grow. I said, well, what is it? Grow, get, give. Well, grow your business. It took me to understand how to connect my message and my passion, why I woke up every day, with some good marketing, some ability to position myself to attract instead of cold calling, because I didn't like doing that. And I call it building a mountain of credibility, is positioning yourself in a way that is so credible in the eyes of the people that you want to serve that you're the only undeniable choice for them, right? So that's about growing your business. And what happened is I was working a lot, and then suddenly I was working even more because I had great success. And the great success meant I had to figure out some processes. So I built these freedom rules around how to block time. And it comes down to people, processes, and systems. You get that right, and you get your freedom. So I call them freedom rules, and we build out these freedom rules to protect our time. And then I was taking a few days off every 6 weeks, and ultimately 3 months off a year. And the last thing was give back. I didn't start with a small give idea. And I'm not saying everybody should just kind of like aim for the stars, but a little at a time is a good idea. It starts with an impact mindset, and it really from financial services into coaching entrepreneurs, basically 20-year younger people than I was counseling with their money, helping them get to that next phase. I realized that it wasn't just financial and philanthropic. It actually comes back to you. And I always say, our goal is to establish a big impact giving process for you, your family, your community, and then as well, the causes that matter most. You can do it all at the same time. It's not sequential, but those are really critical parts of the give back. And if you leave yourself out, it's like a first responder. If you're not well, you didn't look and see that the wire was hanging down and you get electrocuted on the way to saving the person, you're not helping anybody, right? So that's it. That's my grow, get, give philosophy in a nutshell. or a long-winded version.
So, but within the virtual space, those grow, get, give concepts translate. And I want to go back to you were talking about
Mm,
time management, the guardrails of life, because you cannot have a healthy life if you don't have the boundaries of life. One thing we've all experienced is COVID hit. We jumped online. There was no 9 to 5 job. There was no office to go to, and we couldn't go out and do much. So people working 7 days a week,
yep.
15 hours a day,
Yep.
because they wanted something to do with their mind, their body, and everything else, and we lost those boundaries. So speak to that within the virtual stage. How do you do this? Because you and I both, we've been on 4 calls today. How do you
Yeah.
keep boundaries when the virtual stage is all we have to do life, to do business in a lot of ways?
Well, I try to go back to what worked in the past and what I actually coach others to do, and that's set my own boundaries and block my time. And it's a little different now because when you think about where your office is, what was it that Seth Godin says? We don't work from home. We brought work to our home,
Yeah.
or something like that. Our office, our home is in our office now, or something. Um, and it's so true. And I was having a conversation because this weekend, the truth is, I usually get up first thing in the morning, 6 till 8 in the morning, every day, no matter what. And on weekends, I don't deal with the outside world. It's just kind of internal, and I write or create or whatever. And it's always thinking about work. And then I kind of go on with my day. But I'm nevertheless, I end up like gravitating back to my work because guess what? The computer's right there. The work is right there. It's right in my presence. I didn't leave it in an office somewhere. It's kind of around me. And I feel this sense of guilt for walking away. And we had this conversation. My wife and I had this conversation about it. And it was really about just letting go, turning everything off, allowing yourself that boundary and allowing yourself the space that you need, because of course it's always there and it's gonna be there. And even more so because you don't have to commute to it. Like you kitchen to your home office, that's not much of a commute. So you don't have to commute to it anymore. It's right there, but it's up to you to turn the switch off and be comfortable with it and not feel compelled that you're somehow missing out or you didn't do enough work. You would leave the office maybe on a Friday and not think about it much and go out. Like I used to think I'd be on a weekend trip somewhere, every few weeks just to get away from the city that I worked in and the space. And I try to get out of like cell phone reach so I didn't have to connect. Right.
Right. Oh yeah. No.
And now we're not
That's
doing that. So you have to figure. I just said, well, I used to do that, so I can still do that. I can give myself permission to step away. But then the great thing is we were on. We started. I started at 6:30 this morning. It's now 5:30 in the afternoon, and there hasn't been a moment of downtime throughout the entire day, and it's been nothing but great. It's been an emotionally charged day, pure energy. It's been a fantastic day, and I hope to have something similar tomorrow, and I did yesterday too.
so. Let's talk about the energy, because again, I come out from the broadcast media. I'm used to, there is no crowd, there is no stage, there is no clientele to do a live in-person event with. So stepping on this virtual stage to you, and for many people, has been a huge learning skill. I have an imagination. I believe there's a crowd right across the camera lens. I believe the camera is a real person I'm going to talk to and have fun with. But for a lot of people, how have you had to learn this, Mike, yourself, to say energy on, engage, because this is engagement. I have to engage to get to the sales, to get to all the other things. It's got to come fully alive, doesn't it?
Well, you can simply, think about that saying like dance like nobody's watching.
Yeah.
You know, you kind of have to dance like nobody's watching. Like you're the only person on the planet, and the music that you're hearing is the best music on. But at the same time, I wouldn't do that in a public group. In a face-to-face group, I wouldn't pretend like nobody's there. I wouldn't just storm through. I need and you need, and any speaker who's or presenter or trainer or educator, we need to feed off the responses from the audience, and we need to find that. And it takes time. And so, what I think that I've been able to do, because we are looking, like I'm looking directly in a camera, I'm kind of catching you on my peripheral. And in a lot of group sessions, it really is about trying to drown out the whole visual and pick up the auditory cues. I spent 22 years on the phone. I would do business with people I literally didn't see my entire career from all over the world, and we had very, very connected relationships and trusting. We moved millions of dollars around over time, right? And that trust didn't wane because we didn't see each other on Zoom or in person. So the auditory cues give our bodies and our minds an ability to rest. Looking into the video lens sometimes keeps our senses at a heightened level. So if we're able to maybe close out a few of the looks, not worry about how we're looking. I don't think I ever look at myself when I'm presenting for 2 days straight. I could have like the shirt hanging out of my, your zipper. I could have that hanging out and I wouldn't know, right?
But now let's talk about your sales, your pitch.
But on Zoom, you
Right,
become
right,
very
right.
aware, allowing the audio. Pardon me?
No, sorry. We had a little Canadian-U.S. lag there. They were checking us at the border for a
Uh,
second. You go back and do what you were saying, my friend. Sorry about that.
That's okay. So while I wouldn't notice maybe because I'm in the audience and I'm engaged intentionally, now online I totally would know. I would be so aware. I see myself all the time. So I think one of the best practices is to reduce how much time you spend considering how you look, how you appear. Number one, you have to get it right. You can't make people look at you and go, "What is this idiot on there?" Maybe you have to look a little decent. But really, I have to spend time listening to the other people, and I have to occasionally look at you for a cue and hear it in your voice, see it in your eyes, and it really does matter. So I've been spending less time worrying about my appearance and the technology and more about just listening and moving off of those cues. But it
No,
takes time. Like I wasn't doing that months ago. It was very hard.
no, and that again, broadcasters. We've been doing this split peripheral vision for years. We've been looking at teleprompters, looking at other things, and we're able to look here and talk to you as a salesperson, as a marketing person, as a teacher. People are having to learn how to look at the camera and talk to the camera and look because the eyes, the face, the mannerisms matter greatly. Doesn't matter what you're saying. If you're not looking at the people, you're not going to make the impact. So that's a big thing to learn, isn't it? Is that whole peripheral, the multiple sensory thing. That's a big game. And teachers I know are struggling with that. But they want to look at their notes. They want to have the engagement. But the camera is you've got to be present here, don't you?
Oh, you do. And think about it. We're so used to taking physical cues as human beings and processing them, and we're not doing that. We're not able to do it because we don't have that immediate physical cue, those senses that are being activated. And so we're actually working really hard psychologically and mentally to consider where those cues are. We're looking for those cues, and we're not necessarily getting them. And so it is more difficult. But if you just, I think if you lose, and I can't speak for people who've lost their senses, and I really do appreciate their circumstances, something I don't know. But if you were blind or deaf and you couldn't hear or see something, you become a heightened awareness of your other senses. And I think that if we intentionally make ourselves a little less visual, a little more auditory, a little less physical and tactile, and a little more, taking the visual cues, we may actually be able to communicate more comfortably in this environment. But there's something to be said about human energy.
Well, and again, we're going to pick up on that because now we're talking about virtual presentation skills. We're talking about sales skills. So poll number 2 here today. Everyone cast your vote if you would. How confident are you with your virtual sales skills or presentation skills? Whatever your industry is, how confident are you of being on this virtual scale, on a scale of 1 to 10? Cast your votes. Let's see where our crowd here goes. But now let's talk about the personal side because sales is often very personal. And you deal with finance, you deal with money. Talk about personal. People are not going to talk to you if they don't trust you, like you, or if there's some connection. So, how are you doing that through the virtual landscape now, Mike? How are you virtually keeping that alive at the point where they'll go, I'm going to trust you with the big money question?
Uh, I want to say this nicely because it's not like a strategic decision. I think it's a natural evolution. For me personally, the large room sale doesn't exist in the same way at all anymore. It's really kind of off the table. Like I don't. For me, I think what ends up happening is if the large sale really is to a personal conversation. So if I can move a larger audience into a smaller audience into a one-on-one, then we have the ability to maybe do something. I do think that there's going to be some challenges unless the audience is perfect, because it's difficult online to bring the audience that you know is the right qualified audience, because people have all kinds of stuff going. The attendance ratios are terrible for online. You have to reach tens of thousands of people to get like 10 people in a room, right? And then you don't know if that 10 people are the ones that you really want there. So selling in a traditional sense, and we're still doing it, is I think it's a hit and miss game. But moving people along to foster community or foster a mutual singular engagement has a lot of value. And for me, that's exactly where, and so it's like pulling people out of the group and, you know, getting them in a corner and having that conversation. I think that there's a lot of power in it. But what it really is, you know, you get to communicate without the noise, the distractions, and you can just have a real conversation.
So big to go small, but then you can also do those special events, those webinars, those series to keep funneling down. So you might do a catch-all event, then you might do a breakout or something else, and then you might also say, after this, we're going to go to those who really, really want the real meat and the bones. Then you get into something where it's a workshop, it's a forum, you can do that, right? But you've got to pipeline and plan that out versus just go big and go to the back of the room.
That's right. Just hang on. I have a normal virtual thing going on here. All right, next. Sorry, I missed that. Please help me. I was distracted, Rich.
No. So big to small.
Yeah.
And then you funnel them into something where you do get the pipeline. But it's multiple steps now. It's not a, you just say it and you immediately have them and they're signed up for your book or your course. You have to have several steps now to be very intentional virtually, don't you?
Yeah, you do. No question. And you know, we're gonna refer to Seth Godin again, because you know, at first you think, well, the internet gives you an opportunity to millions of people, to reach millions of people, and maybe it is. Maybe that's your billboard. Like your billboard, you know, you have this general social media presence, and people hear your name, see something from you every once in a while, but they keep passing it by. And then maybe there's something that's more targeted, or a friend of a friend or a business associate is going to something that you've put on, or an event that you're hosting. I think consistency, Rich, you do it very well by being here and doing these interviews all the time. I'm doing it with a breakfast. Being consistent and being out there regularly give people the, oh yeah, they're doing something. I'll finally check it out. I have time. I have mental energy. I'm just going to sit in for an hour, just like people are doing tonight. And they're getting that opportunity to see. And it's because you're out there just kind of floating around in the world of what I call uninterested people, right? And then they become slightly interested, and then they get a little more engaged. And it's when they become engaged that they're exchanging ideas, commentary, and information. And the great thing is people are really desperate. And I mean this as a desperate attempt. People are desperate to reach out and connect in a way that they haven't been before. So when you think about the virtual stage, it may be difficult to get the first attention, but it's not difficult to keep attention and to engage people, because we're all desperate to have a little more connection, a little more human interaction. And as we're going into the winter months, it's going to feel a little more isolated. So it's so nice to be able to reach out, but you have to just give. You can't always be asking. You can't always be selling. It's all about marketing, but moving people to that conversation so you can give is still, you know, it's still a trick.
So that's gonna be our big segue. You completely landed the plane perfectly. As we go to the results here, well, we're showing these results. We're gonna talk about the results. I'm gonna start bringing everybody in, and they will become panelists, co-hosts, partners with us. Here's what we get to hear from you. You got to ask your questions of Mike and myself about your specific needs, because now we are gonna change it more personal, very interactive. We've gone big, set the table for you. Now we want to bring it a little bit smaller. So as I'm doing that, Mike, I want you to keep talking here about this poll results. And here's kind of the confidence level, and just kind of look through it. And again, it's a sprinkling.
Yeah, the sprinkling is, you can see some of the pros in the room, And then you can see the people who are, somewhere in between, who really are looking to be better. It's not natural. A lot of people selling is not natural. And even the name sales, using that term, makes people cringe, and I get that. I do a lot of events where we just talk about selling, and you just say, today we're going to talk about sales and selling. And people just start to, go like this, even in the old traditional way, not on virtual. They're not even worried, like, let alone virtual. People just start to shrink away when you say, now it's time to sell. In particular, if you're selling yourself, right? Products and services, goods and services, pretty, distanced. But when you're selling yourself, a service that you do or something you own, as much as it's easy to talk about as the visionary, it's very difficult to take that next step because we're afraid. We're afraid we're not going to be accepted. We're afraid we're going to be rejected. And, we're afraid that some people might just start talking about us and saying, hey, you're crazy. And so my response to all that is, it's not right for everyone.
No.
And, you have something to give. And if you feel that what you're doing is going to be beneficial for people, if it truly deep down is going to help them and serve them well, then you should have a sense of obligation. I do, that you got to try to help as many people as possible in the way that you do. And it's not always going to land right. We're going to mess up some of our marketing. You can't look for that perfect, what's my perfect pitch line or whatever. It just isn't that simple.
Because dogs walk in the frame, the kids walk in the frame, things are going to happen. So, things like that do happen. So here's our chance for everybody here. Yeah, if you want to turn on your cameras, welcome everybody. You're on the virtual stage. Thank you for being with us tonight and giving up your time. Hopefully this is very, very beneficial to you. Here's your chance to ask Mike and I, maybe more specific to your needs or whatever you want to learn more about the virtual stage. Also stick around to the very end. Mike and I do have a special announcement about something we are partnering together. That's one of the things about the virtual stage I have found is there's a greater network of people that want to partner because the traditional way of doing business doesn't work right now. The Lone Ranger business doesn't work anymore, at least not right now. And collaboration is one of the coolest things to emerge. And again, he's in Canada. I'm in Washington, D.C. It's amazing that we can do this seamlessly and globally. So it's really fun. So who has a question for us? You can unmute yourself and ask your question if you would. This is your time.
It's not so much a question. Hi, Mike. I finally got here.
Good, Tina. Welcome.
And I'm gonna put my camera on because I'm making dinner and listening at the same time. But I think what I really enjoy you saying and appreciating, and I know a bunch of the people on this call, not everybody, but it's not easy. It's not easy, and we do it anyway. And I think over time, as we're going through COVID and as I'm listening and it's becoming, how can I say it? Becoming more normal to give, more normal to not feel like, oh, do I have to charge for this? Do I have to charge for this? And how much should I charge for it? And, so there is, I guess what I'm saying is there's a shift that I'm seeing and that I'm feeling and that I'm hearing. And the more we talk about it, the more normal it becomes. And this way of doing business, whether it's virtual, it's all virtual right now. It's just all virtual. It just is. And we're all friends. I feel like, we're a family and building these wonderful relationships. But I appreciate you really kind of sharing the different stages that you've had to go through, in order to get to this one. And the ones, like you said, those of us that just keep showing up, will just keep showing up.
It hasn't been easy. And one of the things that I think it was even harder through the video lens, because I think also we're seeing so many people from all over. Number one, it's really wonderful and joyous that we can meet people that we never would have crossed paths with and make connections. Right. And those people continue to show up in your life online here. But another monumental breakthrough is maybe as much as we give, that we may be not asking enough. And I don't mean asking for people to do something or to buy something, but asking for help. And
Good point.
for me, this has been a big thing in the last month or so. Is I've reached out. I said, I don't get it. I don't get these two parts of my business I don't understand. And occasionally I'm having one of my darkest days because we all have had them, and I need some help, right?
Mhm.
And we're all very hesitant to do that. I don't, for whatever reason, when we need it the most, we don't usually reach out. And I've used this platform to start reaching out a lot more, um, in a pretty caring community, and that's been extremely helpful. It's been game changing. And that's an overused term, but it's a game changer in how we relate. It's not about just giving; it's asking for help too.
Well, Michael,
Absolutely.
Mike and Tina, part of what I think has happened is the playing field has leveled. I think everyone that we thought were rock stars, people that had it all together, there's been this, and again, it's sad that COVID did this, but the financial, the emotional has brought us all down to a baseline of you're really no different than I am. Fortune 500, average Joe, school teacher, whatever it is. It's brought us back to we're all still trying to figure this out. Some of us have masked it for a long time, but the fact is we're all really still the same. And I think it's brought back to we're a little bit more human to each other in spite of being virtually connected.
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
I don't know if that's going to change when we go back, but I think it's pretty cool.
just having the opportunity to be of value is, I think, a great outcome here, or a great kind of byproduct of what's going on. And being pushed into one-on-one meetings, being pushed into availability, being pushed into situations like this where you can, it's not about showing and revealing all the vulnerability you have in the world. It's just about being able to demonstrate and share, your value. And if people perceive that you're valuable enough to them that they need you as part of their life, part of their social network, or to hire you, that's great. But at least you have a platform to do that, I think, more readily than we even did before.
And I think just tack on, and then whoever else has questions, please, you're next. So unmute yourself, jump on in. But there are no back seats.
Listening.
So again, there are no big auditoriums. There are no back seats. We really are in everyone's living room. We're in everybody's car, and we're having a good time together. And it's changed that way of communication. Even though this is broadcast, this is TV. This is something new, even for TV to be this revolutionary. So who's got questions for us tonight? Who else wants to unmute and join us, please?
Sharik.
Hi, so this is Sharik Javed from Munich, Germany. It's actually 2:30 a.m. I just woke up and saw that, yeah, Rich had this session. So I myself am an immigrant in Germany here since around 10 years, working as a software engineer, very stable, fixed job, and then COVID came, and then I lost the job for 2 months. And actually it opened hell lot of opportunities. Actually, I think that I'm lucky that I lost a very good job at Mercedes, where we were operating the Siemens robots and people are working, uh, so now the thing is, then in 2 months, after 2 months, I got a better job. But in the 2 months, I thought, okay, I have a big network of all Pakistani Indian immigrants here. I'm managing already a Facebook group of 8,000 people, and I have followers. So I started going live every day, and the plan was to have a live series of hope in which we will not talk about COVID, but we will have wonderful coaches from across the world. And Rich was also a guest, and we had a lot of people, daily live shows, 2 months straight. One day in English, one day in Urdu and Hindi, so that we transfer this knowledge to third world countries also, where 1 billion people understand this Urdu in Pakistan, Afghanistan, Bangladesh, and India, for example. So now I have this lot of following. I'm very confident in speaking online also. And then whenever any immigrants or they need some help, counseling, they come to me, you know, for, and of course I'm always available for free help. So now the question is, and I also got elected, being an only immigrant elected in a German political party in a management in Munich.
Oh.
So now the thing is, people have this trust level, and I'm always there to give, but I have never charged anyone. So now the thing is, because now consider, now even somebody call and I'm so busy, like before sleeping, I was in a call with member of parliaments and in German parliament, but I don't know how to charge now. This is the big thing now. They all know that whenever we have a problem, we go to Sharik and he will call us back, and so I'm
So
but of course my time is very valuable, and this, I think, even if I make a half-hour call and help them, and this adds really big value and save them a lot of money also, maybe in long term.
So, Mike, how do you do the financial switch? How do you bring
Yeah.
it up and make those deals virtually? This is kind of your space. How do you close those deals?
Yeah.
Well, I think it's definitely the thought leader's dilemma, no question. When you're a thought leader and when you're wired to give, and that's just how you operate on a regular basis, it is a natural tendency to do that. And this has been a scenario where we all have been positioned to do that on a regular basis and give for free. You can begin to migrate that into a little more compartmentalized giving, and start out. It's perfectly fine to say, this is something I'm a professional at, and normally this is what we would do, but here's what I'm willing to do today, and that is to share maybe some helpful information. If it helps you, then clearly we can you can take that and just do whatever you want with it. But if you think that there's more value in whatever, for me it would be, if you think you really would gain some value and traction in having a one-on-one coach, someone who will work with you, be there behind the scenes, then that's an investment. And that's an investment in your future and in opportunities that today maybe aren't apparent to you. But for now, I'm happy to share a little bit of, and this is the difference between advice and counsel, is I'll give you some advice, right? And the advice would be, you might want to consider hiring a coach. Right? Or it might be just a helpful little piece of information that might lead you in the right direction, because I need to, and you as well, we need to understand very quickly who we're dealing with, who we're speaking with. And that's about how we listen, right? I'll know pretty early whether people have the possibility of becoming a client, or this is just a free advice moment. And I'll have to decide how I'm going to live with that. Right? But the people who have decided that this is a free advice moment or a give, that's the only moment. And then I make a decision if these are people that are valuable to me, both from an energy standpoint or maybe from a financial standpoint. Then over time, there will be lots of giving, and eventually something will fall into place. And you have to believe that. You have to have faith that if you serve the right people who value what you give, the compensation, return, reward, it'll all kind of work itself out. But it's about really identifying that those people value you versus the people who do not value you, that will take your free advice as long as you're willing to give it, and will abuse that. So it's up to you to become better at it in terms of making that decision. And it's not easy, but the better you are at it, the more time you save, and the more fulfilling the time is that you spend with people.
And Mike, I think the key word is promote the value of what you have to offer, promote the value of your expertise, promote the value, because it makes it easier to raise their value, their stake in the game, and they'll realize, I want that. So the value you have to offer is a huge thing, not necessarily you, it's the value of what you're bringing to the client or possible person.
Yeah, and don't push your stuff down other people's throats. Like, you should be pretty good at listening. I think it's really important to listen, to hear the audience, to know if there's even an opportunity. Don't just start selling into the first person who phones you up and says, I think you might be interesting enough to talk to, because they're not necessarily saying, I think you're interesting enough to buy from, right? So you have to really do some work. And it's for the lazy that just get frustrated. For the people who want to put in the work and do the listening, you'll be able to discern whether or not people view you as valuable and can use and want what you offer, right? So it's, again, it puts a lot on our shoulders, but if we get really good at it, set our criteria, and start listening a lot more, we'll figure out that path. We'll know what the conversation should go to create that kind of a relationship.
We got another question, so let's jump to the next question. Jump on in, ask it, please.
Good evening, everyone. This is Eve. I'm actually the founder of Ivor Startups Corporations, and I'm also a happiness coach as well. My questions basically, Mike, is I would like to ask you, do you actually use a kind of methodology or strategy, um, I mean, to get to the people you're speaking with to pitch them yourself? Or do you feel, I mean, when do you feel it is the right time to pitch yourself?
Huh. I love the question. I'm going to say that this is something that is more of an innate, natural flow. Usually, here's one rule. If someone says, yeah, I'll take it, or I want to do that, you stop selling. You just say, okay, how can we make that happen today? Right? So that's, a lot of people miss the cue and they just keep selling and selling and selling. And then it's a lot of time to talk yourself out of a real good relationship. But having an understanding of when people are interested, and basically I have a real process by which people receive certain information from me and I'll engage with them, but they're all interchangeable because no one is necessarily going down the exact same path. But I do have a process and I can pick and choose the types of things that are important to the person on the other side at the time. But if I'm just doing my own thing, no time's good and no time's bad because you don't really care. But if I'm really listening to the other side, then I'll know how to help. And you take those cues and you follow up with them. Then they'll get to a moment. Well, how do we do this more? Or how, what can you do to help me? Or is, I think that, you're not going to give me enough without me engaging you. The moment you want to look for those moments, and you don't get them by just selling your own stuff.
And
you got to serve.
I actually like your point, Mike. For some reason, we always want to keep going with the sale. We keep going. It's not that easy. Sometimes they really are easy. Don't overthink it. If they said they want it, go for the close and make everybody happy. We sometimes have to keep going and keep going, and we shoot ourselves in the foot. We got time for one more question. Anyone else got a question here that we want to jump on, unmute yourself and ask it of Mike? Otherwise, Mike and I are working on a project. This is the first time we've been able to do something like this here on the show to take it a step further for everybody. And I'm going to let Mike be the guy to kind of tell you about this. But we did an earlier show today, and we kind of announced that we are going to be taking the virtual stage aspect of what I coach and his sales aspect, and we are going to bring our superpowers together, and we are going to tag team it together. And we have an incredible lineup of other guests to come in with other little nuggets. And we're going to be rolling this out. The launch was today to get the word out. So since Mike, this was not pre-planned. We did not plan the schedule this way. The calendar just fell together. So Mike, tell everybody about what we're going to be doing with Grow, Get, Give, and this concept of the virtual stage.
Okay, Rich, you're right. Wasn't planned, but I can handle it. I'm a pro. I've done this before. We did hold an event today, and it was really about how to kind of sell from and become a rock star salesperson on the virtual stage. But the reality is some of us are just looking not to look stupid on our corporate call with 100 other people, and we're not just there picking our noses and not being contributing people. We may be called to task to engage others. We may be called to persuade them or just bring them along so that they might hear our opinion, right? So we need to be a little better, and some of us need to be a lot better, and some of us just a little bit better at how we engage others through a virtual stage or a virtual platform like this. And so Rich and I did this event today that was pretty funny and fun. I was the guinea pig. I was the worst possible Zoom participant, and then he made me great. Thank you, Rich. I really appreciate it. But what we decided to add, we didn't decide at the spot, we did this before, is we're adding an intensive. And the intensive is training to help you get more confident and improve and increase your skills and your ability to convey your message, convince, persuade, or sell on the virtual stage. And how you're going to do that is we're going to do 3 nights, a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, December 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. For 1 hour, we're bringing in a special guest, and we're going to teach you in an intensive way, interactively, small groups, how to, number one, how to convey a message that matters, how to convince and convey the message that is engaging with other people unconsciously and consciously. So we're bringing in Holland Hayes. I believe she was a guest of Rich's 3 or 4 weeks ago.
Yeah, yes, she was.
Wonderful woman, extraordinary personality, really understands what it means to connect without, being conscious of it. And she's going to help us that day. Second day, Rich is bringing in Bill Gerton, and Bill is the 800-pound sales gorilla is going to help work with tips, tricks, and secrets on tech, on how to get your broadcast booth set up. You don't need a Hollywood studio. You can just do it as is. And then lastly, we're going to bring in Sheila Anderson, whose return on image training helps people look their absolute best on camera, on the stage, and in the office. And so those 3 people are going to come in on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then we're going to have a day of practice. You go away and you come back on Saturday morning for the Sell Like a Virtual Rock Star showcase. And in that showcase, you're going to get 3 minutes of the stage time. You're going to do your thing. We're going to give you positive feedback. We only give positive feedback where no one's going to get hammered. It's a safe space to rehearse and practice before you go out into the rest of the world. And so those 4 days, so 3 plus a bonus day, are going to be available to people for a small investment of $699. So just under $200 a session. And you're getting 3 other incredible professionals' advice, and me and Rich. I mean, what can you ask for? What else can you ask for, really?
and
the key is we're going to be marketing this for the next 10 days. And if you go ahead.
No, sorry.
If it's suitable for you, fantastic. I've just put the link in.
Yeah, you put the link into there.
I put the link in the chat room, so you can go straight there, sign up, and you're done. And we'll just communicate with you and get you through into the intensive. But if you wanted to share it with people or bring a friend, Rich, I did not talk about this. I'm throwing out a discount. So if you want to bring a friend, we'll take $200 off of your intensive fee. It's simple. So if you were here tonight, and if you were here at our earlier thing, we'll knock $200 if you bring a friend who invests as well. So sorry, I just threw that out there. That was an executive decision, unilateral. I know.
He's in Canada. No. But this is the cool thing, because all the guests that we have coming in as special guests have all been on the virtual stage. We're really taking a lot of things that we've been doing in nugget bite size, and we're bringing them together with also Mike's power of sales to help you close and do other things. So this is really exciting to bring it all together for a special couple of days. I do have, Mary has a comment here for you, Mike, just a little feedback. So Mary's going to jump on here before we wrap up our evening. Go ahead, Mary.
Yeah.
Hi, Mary.
Hey, Mike. Hey, I just wanted to say, I heard some things I really needed to hear tonight, and some of it was from Sherry as well. So, I needed to hear that I need to ask for help. And I thank you so much for saying that, because, you always try and just not want to, is it weakness? No, it's not. But, I needed to hear that. And then go live every day. Thank you, Sherry. I know I need to do that, and I needed to hear that tonight. So, and I think that would hugely help. I'm like that 5 person on the scale that's sort of comfortable and getting there, but I think those lives would really help. And then listening, it's true. You're always in this venue, you're always looking, see, how do I look, all this other kind of stuff. And you do miss a lot of those cues, and I really appreciate that. So this was some great content, and I apologize, but I have another virtual event to get to tonight.
Not a problem. Thank you. We're very pleased to have you. Thank you so much, Mary.
We have a moment left. Does anyone else want to unmute and give Mike feedback? This is one of our normal parts of our show. I always surprise our guests. What is the feedback that you want to say to them for taking their time to be here on the stage tonight? Does anyone have any other feedback?
Tina. I just want to say that if you'll send the link to what you're promoting for your, I'm happy to post it. So
thank you, Tina. We will get that out to you. Thank you.
Yes. Good job, both of you. It's great.
In the chat box. Yeah.
So, again, Mike, final comments from you, just on the capsulize from sales, presentation, the power of the virtual stage from your side of the coin. Give us a final closing comment before I wrap this up here tonight.
It's not easy, and everybody's in the same boat. So persist, improve, and try to find where you fit in terms of what you're offering and how you're giving it to your audience.
And always have fun with it. The best thing you can do is bring that energy, the engagement. Make sure you're having fun with this. And again, next week we're going to have another guest on. Carol Kammermer will be my guest next week. Carol, again, is a writer, author, speaker, and she's going to help you with sort of that virtual presence on LinkedIn. She is a LinkedIn expert. Your profile, your bios, the little things that make you pop, so your virtual presence all sync together. It's so important to have this rock, but also the other part of it rocking as well. Make sure you do that, please. Reach out to Mike on LinkedIn. I know he put it in the chat box earlier. His LinkedIn profile is in there. Also,
Find me at growgetgive.com. You'll get me there. If you don't know Grow Get Give, it's Grow Get Give. It's growgetgive.com. Grow Get Give.
also, before you leave, grab the 3 dots on the right-hand side of the chat box. Download that. It will save all the information in there. Again, next week we go live at 8 o'clock, and we will hopefully have you back again. Thanks for being with us tonight. From Mike Skrypnek in Canada, I'm the Trigger Rich Bontrager from Washington, D.C. Good night, everybody. Have a great week. We'll see you next week.